Maloof. He's former senior security policy analyst in the Office of the Secretary of Defense. And he is has almost 30 years of federal service, both in the Defense Department and as a specialized trainer for border guards and special forces in Central Asia and Caucasus. Caucasus? Where is that, Michael?
It's the Caucasus. That would include Republic of Georgia, Azerbaijan, Armenia.
That's where white people come from, isn't it?
Well, it's a bridge between east and west. It's a very strategic area.
Well, I mean, aren't I called a Caucasian if I'm a white guy?
Well, it's actually the Caucasus.
Or not always?
No, not always. And then you have the North Caucasus, which is in southern Russia. Okay,
I got you. Anyway, thanks for being on our program. You got a new book out called A Nation Forsaken, EMP, The Escalating Threat of an American Catastrophe. What we're trying to do, Michael, today, we've been doing it for an hour or so, just scare people to death. That's our objective here on the program, and
so far mission accomplished pretty well.
In keeping with that, we decided to have you on just to raise the level. I'm just teasing with you there, but
a little frosting on the cake. Huh?
Yeah. Well, give us an overview of what you're writing on here.
Well, A Nation Forsaken is a very easy to read book about how the federal government has basically failed the American people in preparing the nation for an electromagnetic pulse event, whether it's man-made or nuclear, or from a nuclear attack, or from a natural occurrence such as a massive solar storm, a direct hit from a solar storm. And the federal government's known about it for years. And the thrust of the book is to outline what those critical, what the vulnerabilities are of our 8 critical infrastructures, and what we need to do to try and remedy it. And one of the things that I think that really needs to take hold is that the rather than rely on a nanny state approach, that people need to really work with their state legislatures and governors and try to get some action initiated that way. And I just came from Maine recently, in which they're doing just that. So they're not waiting for the feds to take the necessary action to harden that grid against such an event, because an electromagnetic pulse basically would fry any grid system or electronic components that are not protected, and it can be done at a reasonable cost over a period of time, but we haven't even initiated that.
Michael, could you paint a picture for us? Let us suppose today, Thursday, the EMP from whatever source were to happen here in the United States. What would be the result?
Well, the most immediate concern up to this morning was potential for a solar flare, and I'll tell you why I said that in a minute, is a solar flare. The sun is going through the height of its 11-year cycle, in which it's going to reach its most intense period this year and next. And NASA is saying that if we get a direct hit from one of these solar flares, some of which can be 7 to 8 times the size of the Earth itself from the sun, it will cost the nation in the first year alone $2 trillion and 4 to 10 years to recover, and affect 160 million lives, meaning that you're going to have 160 million casualties, either from death or starvation.
Who said this? NASA?
The National Aeronautic and Space Administration, yes.
Okay. Are you talking about, just for my clarification, a solar flare?
Yeah.
Yes. Is that like a? I'm thinking of a flare, like what a flare gun. Is you talking about something like that? A flare from the sun?
From the sun, yeah. The sunspots that are becoming much more active are spewing off these flares, and you'll see these gases whipping off the sun's surface. In fact, NASA has live feeds of these now and are watching them, and they'll go off in every which direction. But now these solar flares are coming more in alignment with the Earth, and the concern is that that given that we're reaching that most intense period now, and they're coming off more rapidly and with a greater frequency, that we could be in for a direct hit, and that's where this statistic came from.
Would that affect the whole? Would that affect the whole Earth?
It could. It would affect those countries that rely on technology. To the extent that we do, and we're probably the greatest. We have the greatest reliance in the world on technology for everything we do. Even you were talking a little earlier about being able to pump gas, being able to get your money out of machines. That's all done by automated control mechanisms, and those all are very vulnerable to an EMP event. Whether it's solar or man-made, and we have other critical infrastructures. Our oil and gas pipelines are all regulated by these automated control systems, which we call SCADAs. And what you're going to have if that happens on a wide geographical area with these gas and natural gas and oil pipelines, is that they will trip these SCADAs and could cause tremendous pressure buildups, and resulting in explosions and potential fires. So this could be a secondary effect of these SCADAs going out on a wide basis. Now they'll go out periodically, once or twice, every once in a while, and then people can go out and fix them. But the reality is if they go out on a wide geographical area, you're not going to have enough people, number one, who are qualified to fix them, and number two, you won't have enough equipment and technology to replace the components that were damaged or destroyed. So this is a very, very serious potential problem, and no one is really focusing on this as they should.
We're talking with F. Michael Maloof. He's the author of the new book, A Nation Forsaken, subtitled EMP, The Escalating Threat of an American Catastrophe. The book is published by WND Books. Michael, tell us where people can find you on the Internet, and where can we get copies of this book?
The book is available not only through WND.com, they have a book section, but also on Amazon.com. Those are probably two of the most prevalent, and I understand they're working their way now into bookstores everywhere. So, but certainly on Amazon, certainly on WND.com, the book is available.
You know, Michael, right now, this moment on the Drudge Report, the headline reads, North Korea vows preemptive nuke strike on USA. And I suppose, given all that's happened lately, there's a sense people go, oh, well, that'll never happen. But
that's not true.
Talk to us about it. Is that a possibility, and how does this tie into the EMP threat?
Well, the EMP threat, it can be done by a man-made nuclear device by exploding it, just one, with sufficient megatonnage, maybe even less than 1 megaton, above about 150 miles above the Earth. That's about the maximum for effectiveness. And if it's done at the right latitude over the United States, it could severely cripple our grid system over a wide geographical area. And it will, and it could take months and years to recover from something like that. And that pulse, the pulse from a nuclear device is probably stronger than anything from lightning to a lesser one, which is even the solar storms. That is the most intense. Is the effect from the nuclear device. And the thing that raises my concern is, and I said up till today, the solar storm was the most imminent problem. Now I'm seeing the prospect with what North Korea is saying, that this could be bad because they're threatening a preemptive strike on the one hand, which tells me that the recent tests that they just conducted, underground tests, nuclear tests, were successful for miniaturization, to be able to put a nuclear device on their missile, which they recently tested a 3-stage missile. And with that 3-stage missile, it can at least reach the United States. And when they tested that thing, they also orbited a package, and they said it was a satellite. Well, that could easily be a nuclear device that could extend the range from there on. It could orbit and then be commanded to deorbit and explode at a high altitude anywhere across the United States. And that's what is of concern to me. And now that the fact that they're announcing that, and when they did that test, they also released a video showing a nuclear attack on New York City a few weeks ago. So when you put all of these elements together, the question is, what does this all spell? And are they doing it for? Are they doing it for to gain more leverage over us, to get more concessions, which is one possibility, or do they really have that capability? And the indication is that through their testing and what have you, they've probably established some breakthroughs. We know from years ago that they had acquired the blueprints to miniaturize a nuclear weapon for a missile from Pakistan. So did the Iranians, but it looks like the North Koreans are really pushing this to not only test, but it looks like they may have been successful. Plus, the new leader has to impress his military. They're not convinced that he's the guy that they want to have under command. But if he shows this kind of toughness, then they're going to back him. So there's a lot of elements that come into play here.
We're talking to F. Michael Maloof, and the book he's written is called A Nation Forsaken, EMP, the escalating threat of an American catastrophe. He's just described that, two ways that could happen. EMP stands for what again?
Electromagnetic pulse.
And what
you have different kinds. This is a high intensity burst of electromagnetic energy, and such as X-rays or microwave, or among others. And it comes at such an accelerated pace that and they're so supercharged that and they can overwhelm the capability of your electronics if they're not protected. So and that's the problem.
Yeah. So two things here. I always like to. When I hear people talk about global warming, and I don't subscribe to man-made global warming, but when I hear people talk about it, I go, what am I supposed to do about it exactly here? You know what I'm saying? So I have to ask ourselves, what are you ultimately pushing for here, Michael? Are you pushing for more attention to this from our government? Is that what you're hoping to accomplish?
Yes, that's one element. I really think the federal government's got to get off the dime and start focusing on this as a real threat. Right now, unfortunately, they're so dysfunctional that they're almost irrelevant to the national process. The second thing then is for state legislatures and people to fill that void and take the initiative. As you know, state legislatures do have some authority over their state utilities, and they need to be able to ensure that the utilities have hardened sufficiently. And I think that they probably could get some monies from the federal government to bear some of that cost. Unfortunately, the Department of Homeland Security at the federal level does not regard EMP as one of its 15 national planning scenarios. And so if an EMP event occurred, especially over a wide geographical area, they're not prepared for it.
Which is if you take the North Korean threat on one hand, and you think today, tomorrow, this weekend, what you're really saying, Michael, is as a nation, we are completely, basically unprepared to handle a major EMP.
That's correct. We are extremely vulnerable. Just as our technology world has made us the preeminent economic and industrial power of the world, it's also our Achilles heel at this point, because we have not gone to the trouble of protecting it. Now, countries which have experienced war on their soil, like China, like Russia, and Israel, they are prepared. They know what the impact of an EMP is, and they're the ones who basically have led the research in this area, and so they also know the consequences. And I think that they're working on hardening, and the Israelis the same way. They basically say if they launched an EMP over central Iran, which they've been threatening to do, or to attack Iran, and they did it by an EMP over central Iran, it would certainly knock out electronics from and grids from Middle East into Europe. But they said they could be up and running within 3 days. We're not there.
Michael, give your credentials a little bit more, because I didn't do you justice there. I gave some of them, but I mean, you're not just